Welcome back. You're watching To The Point. A report in today's Hindu newspaper says that an earthquake up to 8 on the Richter scale will hit Uttarakhand anytime between now and the next 50 years. In the present circumstances, such reports are liable to frighten and even create panic. So how reliable are such predictions? And secondly, what should one do when an earthquake happens? My guests are the man who made the Uttarakhand prediction from the Center for Mathematical Modelling and Computer Simulation, Professor Vinod Kumar Gaur, the Director General of the Geological Survey of India, Harbans Singh, the former Vice Chairman of the National Disaster Management Authority, Shashidhar Reddy, and one of India's foremost architects and urban planners, Chandrasekhar Prabhu. Professor Gaur, as I said in that introduction, an article in today's Hindu newspaper quotes you to say that a major earthquake of perhaps 8 on the Richter scale is likely in Uttarakhand anytime between now and the next 50 years. Now, I don't want to frighten people, so I'm going to begin by asking you, on what basis have you made this prediction? Professor Gaur?
Is it a question?
Oh, we don't have Professor Gaur, sadly. Mr. Harbans Singh, we'll get back to Professor Gaur, and I know that you want, like me, to hear on what basis he makes that prediction. But as Director General of the Geological Survey of India, let me ask you, can one predict an earthquake? And secondly, can you predict its likely intensity? Mr. Harbans Singh?
Repeat it.
Mr. Harbans Singh?
Yes, speaking.
Okay, did you hear my question?
Yes, yes.
Would you
Clearly,
answer? Would you
repeat
answer
it again.
I'll repeat it. As Director General of the Geological Survey, I want to ask you, can one first of all predict an earthquake, and secondly, can you predict its intensity?
I think as far as the prediction, because it is a natural hazard and the time and where it will occur, it is very difficult to predict.
An earthquake is very difficult to predict.
Yes, yes.
So does that mean when Professor Gaur says that there will be a major earthquake of 8 on the Richter scale in Uttarakhand anytime between now and the next 50 years, that is not a reliable prediction?
No, we don't have such prediction.
So are you saying this is an invalid prediction, that in fact it's a prediction he should not have made? Give me full answer, sir. Don't just speak in one word at a time.
No, I cannot comment on this.
Why can't you comment on it?
How he has, how he has predicted that he has to explain, I think.
No, absolutely, that I agree. I'm asking you a different question. I'm saying, are predictions about earthquakes valid, or are they fanciful and invalid?
If you ask my opinion, it is very difficult to predict.
So, is there any model or basis on which you can back up that sort of prediction? Or are you saying there are no models and there's no basis for making the prediction at all, full stop?
No, in my opinion, if you say that when it will occur, it is very difficult to predict. But if you say that we can possibly make out the areas where earthquake can occur, that only we can predict.
So you can make out the areas where an earthquake will occur. That is perhaps on the basis of seismic.
That we can make out.
That's on the basis of seismic mapping.
Yes. Based on our tectonic features along the Himalayas, we can work out where these earthquake will occur.
But you cannot work out when.
Exact time we cannot predict where it will occur. It is very difficult.
Okay.
I think, in my opinion, as such.
Yes, finish your answer.
Yeah.
Professor Gaur, you're back with us. I'm going to repeat that opening question. An article in today's Hindu quotes you to say that a major earthquake of perhaps 8 on the Richter scale is likely in Uttarakhand any time between now and the next 50 years. And I don't want to frighten people, so I'm going to begin by asking you, on what basis have you made that prediction?
The basis is the calculation that since the Tibetan plate advances over India at a rate of 18 millimeters per year, a figure which is unquestioned, has remained unquestioned for the last 20 years. The total amount of slip deficit accumulated along this segment of the Himalaya must be close to about 8 to 10 meters, as we do not know of any drainage of this slip over the past 500 years. This amount of slip is enough to challenge the bearing capacity of rocks. That is the basis of the prognostication, that the energy that is accumulated there is bound to be released, but we cannot say when.
But the problem is that you actually roughly said when. You said anytime between now and the next 50 years, and Mr. Harbans Singh, the Director General of the Geological Survey, says there is no way you can give any estimation whether it will happen in 50 years or 100 years. Yet you've said to the Hindu, well, anytime between now and the next 50 years.
Well, I actually said 50 or so, but somehow the newspaper did not report that uncertainty.
When you say,
but I agree that it could. When it you could say be anywhere between now and the.
Yes, now and when?
We cannot say when.
But if you can't say when, then you have no idea when it will happen. Because then you can't say 50 or so either.
Okay, take away the word, take away the figure of 50.
So
but the fact remains, the fact that we must contend with is that the energy that is accumulated there is bound to be released someday, and let us therefore use this interim time to get ready to make our buildings safe, so that even if the earthquake visits us,
I want to come to how we get ready in a moment's time. That is the subject I'll go on to, but I want to first clarify your position. You're not any longer, if I understand you correctly, saying that there will be an earthquake of 8 on the Richter scale in Uttarakhand between now and 50 years. You're simply saying there could be an earthquake of that intensity at any time, but we don't know when. It could happen tomorrow, but it may not happen for 100 or 200 years.
Absolutely.
You agree?
Absolutely, yes.
So in other words, that fear that was created when people read the Hindu, that there will be an earthquake of this dimension and intensity between now and the next 50 years, that fear is hugely diluted, because that earthquake may not happen for 200 or 300 years. All you can say is that the energy building up has to explode at some point, but you have no idea when it will happen, and it may not happen for 200 years, just as it hasn't happened for 500. Have I understood that correctly?
If you like it that way, Mr. Thapar, fine. But I think 50 years is a long enough time for us to get ready.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not talking about getting ready. I'm simply talking about the prediction of the earthquake. But let's come then to this question of getting ready. Let's come, Mr. Shashidhar Reddy, to what one should do when an earthquake is actually happening. It's most people's instinctive reaction to rush outdoors. But would you confirm that that makes a lot of sense if you're on the ground floor or on the first and second floor? It may not be the best response if you're on floors 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Mr. Reddy, can you hear me? No.
No.
Go ahead, Mr. Reddy. Did you hear the question?
Yes, I did.
Please answer it.
Well, I think when you're on the lower floors, the safest thing is to rush out into the open, stay away from the buildings as much as possible. When you're on the upper floors, where it's not possible for you to come down, or maybe in the night, the thing that people are told is to get under something which is strong, like a table or something, or stand in a corner, because that corners are considered to be safer. And get under something, cover your head.
Okay.
If you're lying down, cover your head with a pillow or some blanket, because that's the only way you can try and protect yourself.
Well, I want very much to take up this question with Mr. Chandrasekhar Prabhu of what one does if you're on a high floor and you can't come down. But I'll come to that in a moment's time, Mr. Prabhu. First, I want to take up with you why it's perhaps dangerous to come running down the stairs if you're on the, say, 10th, 11th, 12th floor. I'm going to quote from an email circulated by a gentleman called Doug Kopp, who allegedly is the rescue chief and disaster manager of the American Rescue Team International. He says, never go to the stairs. He says the stairs have a different moment of frequency and they swing separately from the main part of the building. The stairs, he adds, and the remainder of the building continuously bump into each other until structural failure of the stairs takes place. So do you accept what Mr. Kopp is saying? That if you're on the 8th, 9th, 10th and higher floors, to start running down the stairs would be the wrong thing to do when an earthquake happens. Mr. Prabhu? Oh, we've lost Mr. Prabhu at that point. What a pity. Well, I'm not sure. Well, Mr. Prabhu, you're back with us, I'm told. Mr. Prabhu, can you answer that question?
Yeah, sure. You know, it all depends on the quality of structural, structural work that is done. There could be a staircase block which is perfectly blending with the remaining part of the building. There could be another which doesn't blend. So when there is an earthquake, there is a good possibility of the staircase block getting detached, in which case coming down the staircase would be dangerous. However, if the staircase is designed to resist that kind of earthquake, and if the bonding between the staircase block and the beams of the staircase with the rest of the building is done perfectly and executed with precision, then I don't think we really need to be worried.
Can I put this to you? Ordinary people who live in high-rise buildings have no structural idea of how well the staircase is made. They simply believe a staircase is a good staircase because they walk up it and they walk down it every day. So when an earthquake happens and they don't know the answer to this question, is this staircase structurally designed to withstand an earthquake, then what should they do? Should they run down the staircase from the 10th floor, or should they stay on the 10th floor and keep their fingers crossed?
With regard to the new buildings that have come up, there is a mandatory provision, at least in our part of the world, the Western India, Mumbai and other places, wherein there are two staircases that are provided. One is for evacuation and the other is for, for the regular use. So in those cases, the evacuation staircase is specifically designed to ensure that even if the normal staircase fails, the evacuation staircase is good enough to bring them together.
All right. So in other words,
second is,
yes,
like in Israel. In Israel, there is a technology wherein right from your house, there is a kind of an escape system which every house could contain, wherein you just put it on you and take a jump from the window and you get down straight to the ground within 10 seconds or 15 seconds.
But we don't have that in India, so let's not waste time. Let's not waste time talking about what we don't have in India. You made it clear that on staircases, particularly in new buildings in Mumbai, there is a specific evacuation staircase and you need to know which it is and use it. Unfortunately, for people who live in older buildings...
There is a point that I want to make.
Very quickly.
There is a point that I want to make. Even in India, these evacuation systems are lately available. I know of at least 50 buildings in Mumbai which have installed these evacuation systems, that if there is a fire or if there is an earthquake, the person can come straight from the 20th floor down to the ground floor. Okay. I have also seen in Mumbai them being operated and demonstrations being given to the fire brigade.
I won't dispute it. I'm sure Bombay is a lucky city which has facilities the rest of India doesn't. But talking to a national audience, you're saying that in fact you need to be absolutely sure of the nature of the staircase before you use it. It needs to be one built specifically for evacuation purposes, otherwise it can be dangerous.
Sure.
Let me take up something else with you. It's a point made by Mr. Reddy a moment ago when he said, when an earthquake happens, get under a table, stand under a door. Now I'm going to go back to this gentleman, Doug Kopp, who, as I said, was the rescue chief and disaster manager of the American Rescue Team International. Mr. Kopp says that in fact this conventional wisdom, get under a table or stand under a doorway, is wrong. He says if anything falls on a table, such as the collapsing roof, anyone under the table will be crushed. He says if someone stands under the door jamb and the door jamb falls forward or backwards, again the person will be crushed by the ceiling falling. Instead, Mr. Kopp's advice is that the safest thing to do when an earthquake is happening is to lie beside a bed or a sofa, because if the roof were to collapse, it would form a triangle with the side of the bed and the side of the sofa, and that space of the triangle could possibly save someone. Mr. Prabhu, how do you respond to Mr. Kopp's suggestion?
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 things that one must understand in this. Number one is, what is the thing which is coming down? If it is a wooden roof, for instance, it will behave differently. If it is an RCC slab, it would behave differently. If it is some other material like asbestos sheet roof or tin, then it would behave differently.
Tell me.
So for each of these materials,
how would an RCC slab behave? How would an RCC slab behave? And in the event you have an RCC slab as a roof, is it wise to take Mr. Kopp's advice and lie by the side in the hope that this triangle that's formed will save you? Answer that for me.
Yeah, in an earthquake, the RCC slab would behave in 2 different manners. A, if it's a two-way slab of an RCC roof and the whole slab fails, then it comes third, wherein the triangle theory holds good. But if the RCC slab itself breaks and falls in pieces, then the triangle theory may not hold good.
Okay,
so it all depends on the nature of the slab. It also depends on the kind of workmanship. It also depends on the kind of material.
Quite right.
That has
and
been
it actually, at the end of the day, depends upon your good luck or your bad luck. Let's be honest about it.
Absolutely.
Let me bring in Mr. Shashidhar Reddy. Mr. Shashidhar Reddy, a much better way of securing yourselves is to, in fact, ensure that your homes and offices are retrofitted. A city like Delhi sits in seismic zone 4. Take Delhi as an example because it's the capital of the country. How easy or difficult will it be to retrofit all homes and offices in Delhi? And secondly, how expensive?
Well, I think retrofitting, the cost of retrofitting will depend on various factors. It's not going to be, the older buildings are not going to be very easy to retrofit. We didn't have a policy for retrofitting. This is something that we tried to bring in earlier. What kind of buildings can be taken up. There was a plan to retrofit some buildings in Delhi. It has not really taken off.
Can I interrupt you there? Can I interrupt you there? If there was a plan to retrofit critical buildings and it didn't take off, why did it not take off?
Well, I think they didn't really understand, the importance of retrofitting. When we had the Commonwealth Games,
Who's the they? Who's the they? You were Vice Chairman of the National Disaster Management Authority. Dr. Manmohan Singh appointed you. Who is the they who didn't understand the importance of retrofitting?
See, this is something done by the local government and the local bodies. It was the Delhi government which started this work. Part of it has been done.
How much has been done? Answer that for me. Give me an idea. What percentage of Delhi is retrofitted? You don't want to answer that? All right, I'll take your silence to suggest that it is.
Pardon?
I said, what percentage of Delhi is retrofitted?
I'm not able to hear.
All right, I'll move on to someone else. I'm sorry, we seem to have problems with that line tonight. I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Prabhu. You're telling me about how new buildings in Bombay are required by law to be retrofitted. You've told me about how new structures in Bombay have these special devices so that people can literally jump out of the 20th floor and still land safely and escape an earthquake. How secure is Bombay, which doesn't have earthquakes very often, as a result?
No, there are 2 things before I reply to you, Karan. I must
quickly, because we are short of time. Quickly, we are short of time.
About 15 years ago, the city passed a law that every building after that will have to be earthquake resistant design. Now the earthquake resistant design is submitted by the structural engineer, and the building is supposed to be built under that earthquake design regime. However, the municipal authorities and the engineers who give permission to the construction do not have the right to check whether the structural design is built as per the plan submitted. What they do is they check how much square feet is built or whether there is a violation in the floor space index. But they have no authority to check whether the design is done as per the structural calculations
in other
which
words,
are shown,
in
or
other
whether
words,
the
Indian
quality of material
inefficiency
used
triumphs.
is perfect.
In other words, what you're saying, Indian inefficiency triumphs. The law may require you for the last 15 years to ensure that buildings are earthquake resistant, but no one has the power to check and see whether they actually are, and so people may be building buildings in violation of the law which are not earthquake resistant and getting away with it. Sadly, Indian inefficiency triumphs. I'm going to come back very briefly to Mr. Shashidhar Reddy. Mr. Shashidhar Reddy, do you really believe that India, particularly in seismic zone 4, which is a lot of this country, can survive major earthquakes? Or is this an area and a problem that governments need to expeditiously tackle?
Yeah, I think we've seen in buildings in Delhi, in Lakshmi Nagar, in the Makam, in the Jama Masjid area, collapsing even without an earthquake. So our buildings, it is certainly a cause of concern. We need to tackle this very seriously. The other major concern that we have in the country is about the ground open storage buildings. You know, the stilt parking that is provided at the ground level, they are not designed to remain safe during an earthquake, even if the entire building is earthquake designed according to the standards. This is something on which we have worked. We have come out with it is yet to be released. It was finalized in this last 1 year. Nothing has come out of it, but how to make these buildings safe, because this is not only in Delhi but all the cities across, even in smaller towns.
Absolutely, you're saying something very important. Buildings built on stilts so that you can have parking on the ground floor, something that I believe was required by law in Delhi until very recently, are not earthquake safe. They need to be retrofitted. I'm glad you pointed that out. Personally, my own office is in one such building. But I want to end by just reminding the audience what Professor Gaur was good enough to explain, that the prediction in the Hindu that there could be an earthquake of up to 8 intensity on the Richter scale between now and the next 50 years in Uttarakhand was slightly wrong in quoting him in terms of the time frame. He said 50 or so years, and he's clarified today on this program that in fact there is no 50. It could be any time in the next 200-300 years. It's impossible to say when it will happen. Just as the pressure has built up for 500 years and nothing has happened, it could continue for a couple of hundred more. But the danger of such an earthquake is still there on the horizon. It's just impossible to say when. My thanks to all my guests for joining me. There we end this particular episode. And if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.